Hello friends, this is Dan Carlton with the Paragraph Project and Planner U. So I've been spending the better part of the afternoon putting together furniture. And just to give you a little bit of background, and see I have the Allen wrenches to prove it. Just to give you a little bit of background, my home is a bit of a mess right now. We had a hot water heater that exploded a couple months ago, is in our attic. So it rained down water through 3 floors of our house. Pretty much every room in our house is in some way touched with water, so that means everything's getting touched with some sort of remodeling project. We're putting in new drywall, changing the flooring, painting, new furniture, what have you. So we're kind of in the thick of things. And the project today was putting together 4 chairs for my kids' craft table. And the interesting thing about that task was, I had the Allen wrench, I had a bag full of bolts. You've all been through this process before where you're trying to assemble a piece of furniture, and I had everything lined up perfectly. I was hovering over the chair and I was working to get the Allen wrench and the bolt to kind of work together and talk to each other and cooperate, and I just couldn't get it to happen. So every time I twisted the Allen wrench, it just wasn't gripping, and it'd slide out of my hands and the Allen wrench would shoot across the floor. I was getting super frustrated. So I went through that process for a few minutes until I finally realized that rather than standing over the chair, that I actually had to get down on the ground and work from below. And getting on the ground made all the difference in the world. Once I was down at the eye level of that bolt, it was so much easier to make it line up and just get traction and go. So once I got down on the ground, everything else was kind of a breeze. And it's an interesting lesson for how we think about pretty much any sort of challenge. We're always talking about getting like a 30,000 foot view of things and trying to get this macro perspective of what's going on in our businesses and with our consumers. And all that is great, and looking at high level data is great. But sometimes what's really necessary or most necessary is actually getting down on the ground level. Rather than the 30,000 foot view, it's the 1 foot view. So how do we get into the lives and the homes of our consumers, or how do we get in the trenches with our employees to understand what the real problems are with our business and with our brand? And just taking that different perspective of, again, if you're working with consumers and you're trying to understand how they think about your brand and how it fits in their lives, spending time with moms as they're packing lunches for school, or parents as they're working to balance their checkbook, or whoever your target audience is, it doesn't really matter, but like actually being in the moment with them can be so much more enlightening and give you a different perspective than just looking at the rolled up data. So it's an interesting lesson through this whole experience that I had putting together furniture, that even though you might prefer to kind of look down on a situation, sometimes it's better to get on the ground floor and kind of look up from the other direction and see what new solutions can emerge just by changing your perspective. So that's been something that's going to be a good reminder for me as I move forward through the rest of the week, and maybe something that I challenge you with is, what is it about your brand or your business or your product or your consumer that is posing some sort of struggle or challenge with you right now? And how might you get a different perspective by getting down on the ground level and examining the problem from that way, and see what sort of solutions might emerge? So hopefully that is helpful for you. It's been helpful for me, and I look forward to talking to you guys again. Thanks.